Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos, and today I want to take a quick look at the 9.2 preview that just dropped. If you haven't watched this, it's on the Warcraft YouTube channel. It's a nice 11-minute long video. The first 8 minutes are just discussion of the story and the new zone and that kind of stuff. So if that's exciting, go ahead, watch it. But if you want to skip that part, one thing that I want to key in on is they mention that this is the third and final act of Shadowlands. So probably this effectively confirms that there's not a 9.3 and this is going to be the last patch in Shadowlands. Couple that with the fact that it doesn't come with a time announcement of when this is coming out. In fact, if you go to the bottom of the little page here, there's much more to come. We'll release in-depth previews of the features above and others as we get closer to the PTR and release. So that implies there's still a little bit of time away from those things happening, which probably, I'm still not sure what times I would guess for this to come out, but maybe PTR next month or the month after, right? PTR like December, January maybe, and the patch February, March, something. I don't know. Like it's weird because I would have guessed that before, but maybe it's even later than that. If they're if they are not telling us any dates yet, like this isn't one of the announcements that comes out and then just the PTR is up. Anyways, that's one thing to go on here. Another thing going on is the tier sets return. Now they talk in the video about the tier sets. Let me see. Yeah, the progenitor tier sets. Which are class-based tier sets. And unlike previous tier sets, these ones will be distinctive class armor sets via raids, PvP, or M+ dungeons, and they're going to come with 2-piece and 4-piece set bonuses. Now, they haven't told us anything about how many items are in the set, anything like that, but the fact they come from PvP, M+, and raid, if this is done well, will be fantastic. I do think it's important that they... Like, I think that the difference between somebody who does all 3 forms of content versus somebody who does just one form of content is something they should prioritize just in general. They should close that gap a little bit, but especially with the tier sets, if it's something like 2 weeks to get your tier set if you're doing all 3 forms of content and like 6 weeks to get it if you're specialized, I think that's something they should try and avoid. Because you're always ahead if you're willing to do all 3 forms of content anyways, but I think there should be things in play to kind of smooth it out, to make it so that it's a little bit less of a huge advantage to be doing all 3. That being said, I of course will be doing all 3 if there's power behind it, so it doesn't really affect me too much. But I think it should be less powerful than it is to go and do everything, because it's already, I mean, it's powerful and it should be better than not doing everything, but. We'll see how the tier sets get implemented. We'll see how many armor pieces are in here. If you look at these tier sets, there appear to be belts in these, right? We've got shoulders, gloves, chest piece, helmet, pants, boots. But it does also look like there's a distinctive belt for each one. But whether that's part of the set or whether that'll just... You know, when they release tier sets, usually there's like a full cosmetic set around it, but it doesn't really give us any information on how many actual armor pieces are part of the tier set, right? Whether it's 5, 6 was the Legion number, 5 was the number for before that for a while. Obviously, you could go back to a time when it was 8 as well, and it's not going to be too important this time around because there's only one legendary and you can move it around freely to multiple different spots. So even if there's only 5 pieces of your tier set, that should still be more than enough to, you know, there's not that much pressure on the different item slots this expansion once domination sockets go away. Now, some things they haven't talked about. What's happening with domination sockets? Of course, that's not something that's going to make it to an 11-minute video. It would take probably an 11-hour video of going through features before you'd want to mention domination sockets. You'd probably sneak it in at hour number 8 and hope people aren't paying too much attention. Not something you want to talk about when when you're trying to get people hyped to play your game. So that's what's going on with tier sets. Other than that, there's really not too much information in either the video or the post here. Obviously, there's stuff about the new zone, the new presumably faction. There's a new grind decoding the cipher of the first ones, but it's pretty unclear exactly what that's going to entail. But yeah, you unlock a zone activities, daily quests, events, and rewards. Presumably, this is going to be worth doing, and it's just the progress bar, I guess. Effectively, instead of like a rep, is going to be understanding of this language, which is going to kind of like in a No Man's Sky maybe sort of way. You learn the language, and that lets you do new stuff and lets you understand what's going on there. So this could be very cool. It could also be a very annoying grind. Those two things are kind of separate, right? Whether they do the story well versus whether they make a grind that is good or bad could go either way on each of those points. We have no real information yet about how that's going to work. New raid coming out that's going to involve Zoval, that's the jailer, in the Sepulchre of the first ones, Anduin as well. And they didn't mention cross-faction raiding, so the speculation around that doesn't seem to have... It seems like they probably would have mentioned that if this was a patch feature, so that one's probably out. You can see we're going to fight some of these classic Maw tin cans at the start of the raid, but there's also like these fantastical, sites in the raid too, and then there's also Anduin that we're going to end up facing. Now, yeah, that's a night elf, right? This is just an alliance raid. Let's see if we can glean some information about... Okay, what do we got here? Yeah, these are all alliance players, right? It looks like these look like alliance frames. Yeah. So that if there was an orc in here, I'd be thinking, oh, that's a hint that cross faction's coming, but no, does not appear to be the case. Seems like that's not happening with this one. Okay, what else is going on here? Season 3 for M+ and PvP, probably the final season. Tazavesh, upper and lower Tazavesh for M+. New mounts and pets, updates to professions, soulbinds, and conduits. New dancing minigame at the Darkmoon Fair, and much more. So the and much more being listed as a feature here, maybe there's more things that will go in the feature list that aren't announced yet, because I don't know. It does still seem like it's a little bit away. We still don't have a date, but even if this is the full list, even if there's not really anything else that would make it into a feature list, I think if tier sets are done well, that will be really good news. And yeah, I think this, for those kind of interested in doing some long-term planning, this probably means we are getting a 10.0 around the time we usually do, which is somewhere between a year and 10 months from now, would be when that would historically launch. So we'll see if that sort of pans out. The thing is, much as they want the hype and stuff to be about 9.2, at some point soon, if they are planning on doing a 10.0 around then, we're going to have to start seeing alpha and beta for that expansion being discussed and coming up and stuff. So I don't know how much longer the lid can stay on that if they are going to hit the usual timing of like August for an expansion. So we'll see how all that turns out. They do have a couple more months, I think, before the alpha or beta would usually go up, but not too much longer. And often we would know about the next expansion by now because there would be a BlizzCon that would talk about the next patch and the next expansion. But here we've only got stuff about the next patch. Although it does basically confirm there's no 9.3. There could be a 9.2.5, something like that. There's also no discussion of like a new dungeon or anything, which makes sense because the expansion's almost over, I guess. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.